cubes and cube roots. Now, if you've just seen the video on squares and square roots, it's going to be a bit deja vu because this is very similar. So when you multiply a number by itself and then by itself again, you are in fact said to be cubing it. So for example, 2 times 2 times 2, we say we're cubing it because it actually makes sense to think of it as a cube that's 2 by 2 on the base and 2 tall. This is also written, you don't have to write it 2 times 2 times 2. The short way to write it is 2 with a little 3. So like I say, it's very similar to square, but instead of a 2, it's 3. And 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. And if you look at the cube, you can see there's 8 little cubes in there. 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. And when we cube a whole number, we get a cube number. It's a bit like the square numbers. When you square a whole number, you get the square numbers. You have to be able to recognize some cube numbers as well, but only the first 5 for this one. So we're going to find out the first 5. So 1 cubed is 1 times 1 times 1, which is just 1. 2 cubed, well, that's 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8, as we've just seen. 3 cubed, well, that's 3 times 3 times 3. Well, 3 times 3 is 9, times that by 3, again, is 27. 4 cubed, that's 4 times 4 times 4, well 4 times 4 is 16, times that by 4 again, we get 64. And 5 cubed is 5 times 5 times 5, 5 times 5 is 25, times that by 5 again is 125. So these are the numbers we need to be able to see and recognise as cube numbers. 1, 8, 27, 64 and 125. Interesting to note that 1 is both a square and a cube number, as is 64. 64 is 8 squared and it's also 4 cubed. Now the cube root of a number is a number that when cubed gives you that number. So similar to square rooting, square root of a number, it's what number squared gives you that number. Cube root is what number cubed gives you that number. Now the cube root of 64 means what number times by itself, then times by itself again, is 64. Well, we've just seen that that's 4. Now we usually write this with a symbol similar to the square root symbol. It's just got an extra 3 in front of it, which means cube root. So the cube root of 64 is 4. So what is the cube root of 125? Well, using that symbol, we write this as cube root of 125 is equal to what number multiplied by itself and then by itself again is 125. Well, that's 5. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So the cube root of 125 is 5. Now we can also use calculators to find cubes and cube roots, but it's not as straightforward as for square and square roots because different calculators will do it different ways. Now to cube a number, if you look at it, your calculator will hopefully have a cube button, an X with a little 3. If not, you may have to press a combination of buttons, usually this arrow symbol and then the 3. If you're not sure how to use a calculator, it's best off referring to its instructions. It'll tell you how to do cubes and squares and stuff like that. To find cube root of a number, we can also press, if you're looking, it might have a cube root button, which will look like the cube root symbol. If not, it might be a combination of 3 and then the root button, which looks something like this. Instead of a 3 at the front, it's got a Y. And the 3, typing in the 3 says that you want that Y to be a 3, so you want to do the cube root of. I won't be able to demonstrate it with the calculator as I did for the square roots because the calculator on the computer isn't as good and it won't be representative. But just check that your calculator gets the same answer as mine. So what is 7.4 cubed? So typing that into your calculator, you should get 405.224. Okay, as I say, if you can't get it, check your instructions for your calculator. Example D, what is cube root of 240? So a chance to check out how you do cube roots. You should get a big long decimal, 6.2144650, and so on. We've not looked at rounding, as I said before, so we're just going to leave that right at the first number after the decimal point, so we're going to say that's 6.2.